The stars stretched like thin white lines against the deep black of space. Captain Judd Park stood on the bridge of the human warship Dauntless, his hands clasped behind his back. The ship hummed with quiet energy, its systems running smoothly beneath the polished metal surfaces. Long-range sensors are picking up something, called out Ensign Wu from the sensor station. His fingers danced across the holographic displays, blue light reflecting off his focused face. Jay turned, his eyes sharp and alert. Details. Wu adjusted some settings, zooming in on the distant reading. Multiple contacts. Definitely not human signatures. Looks like a scout formation. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. In the vast emptiness of space, unexpected contacts rarely meant good news. The Dauntless was not just any ship. She was the pride of the human fleet, a marvel of engineering that represented humanity's best technology and brightest hope. Equipped with adaptive combat systems and an AI core that could process millions of calculations per second, the ship was designed to face the unknown. "Bring up the visual," Jay commanded. The main screen flickered to life. At first, nothing seemed unusual, just the infinite darkness broken by pinpricks of distant starlight. Then, slowly, shapes began to emerge. Sharp, angular vessels with metallic green hulls became visible. Their design was unlike anything humans had seen before. "Krelvai," muttered Lieutenant Kim from the communication station. The name carried a weight of recent history, encounters that had been tense, uncomfortable, and always on the edge of violence. The Krelvai were known throughout this sector of space, a confederation of species that believed in strict hierarchies and absolute control. They viewed other civilizations as potential resources to be categorized, controlled, or eliminated. Jay studied the approaching ships. 5 vessels, each looking like a deadly arrowhead cutting through the darkness. Their formation suggested military precision. These were not traders or explorers, but warriors. "Incoming transmission," Lieutenant Kim announced. "They're hailing us." Jay nodded. "Put it through." A harsh, grating voice filled the bridge. The translation software worked quickly, converting the alien language into clear human speech. "Unidentified human vessel. You have entered restricted space. Prepare for inspection and potential seizure." A ripple of tension moved through the bridge crew. They had heard stories about Krelvai inspections, ships stripped of resources, crews sometimes never seen again. Captain Park's voice remained calm. "This is an open navigation corridor. Under galactic transit agreements, we have clear passage rights." The alien response was immediate and cold. "Agreements mean nothing. Surrender your vessel and prepare for boarding." Joe looked at his crew. Young faces, diverse backgrounds, but united in their resolve. They had trained for this. They were not going to be intimidated. "Defensive protocols," he said quietly, "but no aggressive moves unless fired upon." The ship's systems began to shift. Energy shields hummed to life. Weapon systems didn't activate but were primed and ready. The Dauntless was like a boxer, not throwing the first punch, but absolutely prepared to defend itself. On the main screen, the Krelvai ships began to spread out, a hunting formation that suggested they expected an easy capture. They did not know humans. They did not understand that this crew, this ship, represented something far more complex than a simple target. "They're locking targeting systems," Ensign Wu reported, his voice steady despite the growing tension. Jay Park watched the alien ships. First contact was always a moment of possibility. Diplomacy or conflict hung in a delicate balance. And in the cold silence of space, that balance was about to tip. Hyun Kim leaned forward, her fingers hovering over the communication console. The tension on the bridge was thick enough to cut with a knife. Captain Park stood motionless, watching the Krelvai ships with a calm that surprised even his most experienced crew members. "Prepare communication channel," Jay ordered. His voice was steady, but everyone heard the underlying steel. Hyun nodded, her hands moving quickly across the holographic interface. She was the Dauntless's diplomatic officer, trained to handle the most complex interstellar negotiations. This moment would test every skill she had learned. The main screen flickered. The Krelve representative appeared, a creature with sharp, angular features and skin that seemed to shimmer between metallic green and deep blue. Its eyes were large, with multiple pupils that moved independently, scanning the human bridge with obvious contempt. "Humans," the creature began, its translation device producing a voice that sounded like gravel being crushed. "Your presence here is unauthorized. You will surrender your vessel and submit to Krelve inspection." Hyun studied the alien carefully. She knew the Krelve Confederation operated on a strict hierarchical system. Every interaction was a test of dominance, every conversation a potential battle. "This is an open navigation corridor," she responded, matching the alien's tone. "Under Galactic Concordance Treaty, Section 7, Paragraph 3, we have full transit rights." The Krelve representative's multiple pupils seemed to contract. Its response was instant and sharp. "Treaties are for lesser species. The Krelve Confederation does not recognize human claims." Captain Park stepped closer to the communication console. "We are not asking for recognition. We are stating fact. Our vessel is on a legal transit route." The alien's form shifted, a movement that might have been a laugh or a threat. "Humans, always talking, always believing your words have meaning." Hyun felt a surge of anger, but kept her voice calm. She knew the history. Humans had a reputation in this part of space, a young species that had emerged quickly, technological advancement matched only by their unexpected resilience. "Our words always have meaning," she said, "unlike some confederations that operate on pure force." The communication went silent for a moment. On the bridge, every crew member held their breath. Ensign Wu's fingers hovered over the sensor controls. Lieutenant Park's hand was close to the weapon system's activation button. The Krelve representative's image flickered, then returned. "You have 60 standard time units to prepare for boarding. Resistance will be met with total destruction." Captain J. Park smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "We will not be boarding your vessels. We will not surrender. And we will defend ourselves if attacked." The alien's response was a burst of sound that the translation computer struggled to interpret, part laugh, part snarl, part threat. "Transmission ended," Hyun announced. The bridge remained silent. They all knew what was coming. The Krelve did not make idle threats. They were preparing for conflict. "Battle stations," Captain Park said quietly. The ship transformed. Soft blue lighting shifted to deep red. Holographic displays came alive with tactical information. Weapon systems that had been dormant now hummed with potential energy. The Dauntless was no longer just a ship of exploration. It was becoming a weapon. Ensign Wu's voice cut through the silence. Multiple weapon locks detected from Krelve vessels. They're charging energy cannons. Captain Park looked at his crew. Young faces. Determined faces. Faces that represented humanity's best. Intelligent, adaptable, unbroken. "Hold position," he said, "but be ready." Outside the ship's hull, the cold darkness of space waited. And between the human vessel and the Krelve ships, diplomacy had just died its final death. Conflict was coming. The first shot came without warning. A brilliant green energy beam sliced through the darkness of space, aimed directly at the Dauntless. But the human ship was ready. Milliseconds before impact, its adaptive shield system calculated the incoming attack's precise energy signature and frequency. "Incoming," shouted Ensign Wu. The shield didn't just block the attack. It absorbed it. Captain Joe Park watched the energy dissipate around the ship's hull, a faint blue shimmer marking where the shield had intercepted the alien weapon. His crew moved with practiced precision, each person knowing exactly what to do. "Return targeting lock," he ordered. "But do not fire first." Lieutenant Kim's fingers flew across her console. Adaptive defense systems are at maximum efficiency. They're analyzing Krelve weapon signatures in real time. The 5 Krelve ships spread out, their formation changing from a tight hunting group to a more aggressive attack pattern. They clearly had not expected the human ship to simply absorb their initial attack. Another beam lanced out. Then another. The Dauntless continued to absorb and analyze. Each attack made the ship's defensive systems smarter. Each energy signature was quickly understood, categorized, and neutralized. Their weapon frequency is predictable, Ensign Wu reported. His voice was calm, almost clinical. Our AI is learning their attack patterns faster than they can adjust. This was humanity's secret weapon, not just advanced technology, but adaptive intelligence. The ship was learning, changing, becoming stronger with each passing second. The Krelve ships began to move more erratically. Their initial confidence was turning into confusion. These humans were not behaving like any species they had encountered before. Minimal power to forward weapon systems, Captain Park said. Just enough to demonstrate capability. No direct damage. A small pulse of energy erupted from the Dauntless. It was precise, controlled. The pulse passed between two Krelve ships, close enough to make them react, but not touching them. A warning. A demonstration of precision. The alien ships immediately broke formation. Their movement showed something new. Fear. They're retreating. Lieutenant Kim said, surprise clear in her voice. But Captain Park knew it wasn't that simple. No, they're regrouping. He was right. The Krelve vessels began to cluster together, their communication systems lighting up with frantic signals. They were talking, planning, trying to understand what had just happened. Hyun Kim's communication systems picked up fragments of their conversation. The translation software worked quickly. Impossible, one voice said. No species absorbs energy weapons like that. The shield, it's not just blocking. It's learning, another voice responded. On the Dauntless Bridge, the crew remained focused. No celebrations, no relaxed attitudes. They knew this was just the beginning. Continue defensive posture, Jave ordered, but prepare for potential full-scale engagement. The ship's AI core continued its work, analyzing, learning, adapting. Outside, the Krelve ships moved like wounded animals, confused, angry, uncertain. They had attacked a human vessel, expecting an easy victory. Instead, they had encountered something entirely unexpected. A species that did not just defend. A species that evolved in real time. A species that was learning faster than they could attack. The first engagement was over. But the real battle was just beginning. News travels fast in space. Faster than light, some would say. Within hours of the Dauntless's encounter with the Krelve, communication networks across multiple star systems began to buzz. The story spread like wildfire. The human ship had not just survived an alien attack, but had made the attackers look weak. Commander Seo Jin sat in the Galactic Strategy Room, watching holographic displays that showed the growing tension. Around her, representatives from dozens of alien species watched and whispered. Humans, muttered a Vortex delegate, its tentacles moving nervously. They are becoming a problem. Seo Jin said nothing. She knew how the game was played. Information was a weapon. And right now, humans were writing a new chapter in galactic history. The holographic displays showed multiple communication channels. The Krelve were desperate. They were calling every ally, every potential supporter. They wanted to build a coalition against humans. We were attacked. A Krelve diplomat was saying to anyone who would listen. The humans are unpredictable, dangerous. But other species were not easily convinced. The reports were strange. A single human ship had faced 5 Krelve vessels and survived without firing a single offensive shot. This was not normal. This was not expected. In another part of the galaxy, the human diplomatic corps was working overtime. They understood the importance of this moment. One encounter could change everything. Back on the Dauntless, life continued with calm precision. Captain Joy Park reviewed the encounter logs. Dr. Yoon Min, The ship's chief technology officer stood nearby. The adaptive shield system performed beyond expectations, Hume said, pointing to a complex graph. We absorbed and learned from over 237 distinct energy signatures in less than 20 minutes. Jay nodded. He was more than a captain. He was a representative of humanity. Every action, every decision mattered. The ship's AI continued its silent work, analyzing, processing, learning. On the communication channels, the debate grew heated. The vortex species suggested caution. The silicon-based Kroner civilization seemed interested in studying the human technologies. The reptilian Zarn were simply confused. They did not attack. One Zarn diplomat asked, genuinely puzzled. A species with such advanced weapons chose not to destroy. This was humanity's strength, not just technology, not just adaptability, but choice. The Krelve continued their attempts to build an anti-human alliance. They showed recordings of the encounter, hoping to paint humans as a threat. But the recordings did something unexpected. They made humans look smart, controlled, powerful. Commander Seo Jin watched all of this with calm eyes. She understood the larger game. This was not just about one ship. This was about humanity's place in the galaxy. We are not conquerors, she said softly to herself. We are explorers. On the Dauntless, life continued. Systems hummed. Crew members worked. The ship moved through space, a silent testament to human engineering and spirit. The galaxy was watching, and humanity was ready. Somewhere in the vast darkness, more Krelve ships were preparing. More encounters were coming. But the Dauntless would be ready. Humanity would be ready. The first chapter was over. The real story was just beginning. Dr. Yoon Min loved numbers. More than people. More than conversations. Numbers told the truth. The Dauntless's main laboratory hummed with quiet energy. Holographic displays danced with complex calculations, showing data that would look like magic to most species in the galaxy. Another breakthrough, Yoon muttered to himself. The ship's quantum computer was doing something unprecedented. It wasn't just processing information. It was learning, evolving. The encounter with the Krelve had been more than a battle. It had been a massive data collection event. Across multiple screens, alien weapon signatures were being torn apart, analyzed, understood, and then improved. Captain Joe Park walked into the lab. He knew better than to interrupt Yoon when he was working. The technology officer could spend days without sleep, chasing a single moment of discovery. Status, Jai asked. Yoon pointed to a particularly complex display. Our adaptive shield technology can now predict weapon frequencies before they're fired, not just block. Predict. This was not normal technology. This was something else. The Dauntless was more than a ship. It was a living system of intelligence. Every attack, every encounter made it stronger, smarter, more complex. Outside the ship's hull, space remained dark and silent. But inside, a revolution was happening. The ship's AI was learning faster than any known technological system in the galaxy. It could analyze Krelve weapon systems, understand their communication protocols, and develop countermeasures in milliseconds. We're not just defending, Yoon said, more to himself than to the captain. We're evolving. Jay understood. Humans had always been good at adaptation. From their earliest days on Earth, they had survived by learning, by changing, by understanding. Now, they were doing the same in space. The quantum computer continued its work, breaking down alien technologies, understanding their core principles, and then improving them. A message came through from Human Command. Short, precise. Continue observation. Do not engage unless directly threatened. But both Yoon and Jai knew what was really happening. This was more than observation. This was learning. This was preparation. Across different alien communication networks, strange reports were spreading. Whispers of a human ship that could do impossible things. The Vortex civilization sent scientific probes. The Kroner dispatched observation vessels. Everyone wanted to understand. But humans kept their secrets close. In the lab, Jung pulled up a holographic model of the last Krelve weapon signature. His fingers moved quickly, breaking it down into its most basic components. "Interesting," he said quietly. The weapon's core technology was actually quite simple, but its implementation was complex. Jung could see ways to improve it, ways to make it more efficient, more precise. The ship's AI was doing the same thing across thousands of systems. Learning, adapting, improving. Captain J watched the displays. He was not just a military leader. He was a guardian of something much larger, a representative of a species that did not just survive, a species that grew. "We are not here to conquer," Jay said softly to Yoon. "We are here to understand." Yoon nodded. For him, understanding meant numbers, meant data, meant the pure beauty of technological evolution. Outside, space remained unchanged, silent, dark. But inside the Dauntless, something remarkable was happening. Humanity was learning how to become something more. Lieutenant Junho Park's hands moved like lightning across the tactical console. Each movement was precise, each decision calculated. The Dauntless had been tracking a massive Krelve battle fleet for 3 standard days. Not running, not hiding, watching. "They're preparing a full-scale offensive," Junho muttered. His eyes never left the holographic displays that showed the alien fleet's movements. Captain J. Park stood behind him, quiet but alert. The bridge was tense. Every crew member knew something big was coming. The Krelve fleet was huge. 50 ships, some massive dreadnoughts that could destroy entire planetary colonies. They thought they were hunting the Dauntless. In reality, they were walking into a trap they didn't understand. "Weapon signatures building," called out Ensign Wu. Multiple energy concentrations detected. The Krelve ships began to move. Their formation was complex, designed to overwhelm, to crush, to destroy anything in their path. But they did not know the Dauntless. "Adaptive shielding at maximum," Junho reported. "AI is processing potential attack vectors." The first wave of attacks came. Massive energy beams that could slice through most ship defenses. But the Dauntless was not most ships. Its shields didn't just block. They learned. They adapted. Each incoming weapon was analyzed in microseconds. Its frequency, its energy signature, its potential trajectory, all understood and neutralized. The Krelve fleet kept attacking. Wave after wave of weapons fire. Each attack making the human ship stronger. "They're confused," Lieutenant Kim said from the communication station. Her translation software was picking up fragments of Krelve communication. "They cannot understand why their weapons are not working." Junho allowed himself a small smile. This was more than a battle. This was a demonstration. Humanity was showing the galaxy something important. They were not just another species to be conquered. They were something else entirely. The ship's AI began to do something unexpected. It wasn't just defending. It was planning. Suddenly, the Dauntless moved, not to attack, but to position itself perfectly. "Redirect all auxiliary power to quantum communication array," Captain Park ordered. The ship's systems shifted. Something was happening that the Krelve could not understand. The Dauntless began to broadcast. Not weapons, not threats. Information. Detailed scans of the Krelve weapon systems, their communication protocols, their ship designs, all exposed, all shared across multiple galactic communication channels. "We are making them transparent," Jay said quietly, "showing everyone who they really are." The Krelve fleet began to break apart. Their perfect formation was falling apart. They were being revealed, exposed. Junho's tactical display showed something remarkable. The other galactic civilizations were watching. And they were learning. "Weapon systems are fully ready," Junho reported. "But we will not fire first." The message was clear. Humans were not here to destroy. They were here to protect, to understand, to show a different way. The Krelve fleet was in chaos, their most powerful ships rendered useless by a single human vessel that refused to play by their rules. Broadcast complete, Lieutenant Kim announced. Captain Park nodded. Maintain defensive posture, but do not engage. Outside, space remained dark, silent, but something had changed. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had just shown its true potential. The meeting hall was massive, circular, designed to show power through its very architecture. Ambassador Yun Choi walked in with Captain Jae Park beside her. They were not just representatives. They were something more. They were humanity's voice in a galaxy that was suddenly paying attention. Alien delegates from 100 different civilizations watched them enter, some with curiosity, some with fear, some with respect. "We are not here to fight," Yun began. Her voice was clear, strong. "We are here to create understanding." The Galactic Council chamber fell silent. The massive holographic displays showed images from the recent encounter. The Dauntless, the Krelve fleet, the incredible technological demonstration that had changed everything. A Vortex delegate moved its tentacles nervously. "You exposed military secrets," it said. "You showed weakness in another civilization's systems." Yun smiled. "We showed transparency," she corrected. "We showed that hiding is not strength. Understanding is." Captain Jay stood quietly. He was not just a military leader. He was a symbol of human potential, of human approach to conflict. The Kroner representative clicked its silicon-based communication device. "Your ship, it is different." "How?" Dr. Yoon Min, who stood behind Yun and Jae, stepped forward. Numbers and calculations seemed to dance around him like a personal energy field. "Adaptation," he said simply, "not just in technology, in thinking." The diplomatic dance was complex. Humanity was proposing something radical. Not conquest, not submission, but a new way of existing in the galaxy. "We propose an open technology exchange," Yun continued. "Not just human technologies, but a platform where all civilizations can share, learn, grow." The Krelve representatives looked angry, defeated. They had come expecting to see humans punished. Instead, they were watching humanity turn their defeat into an opportunity for everyone. "You attacked us," a Krelve diplomat hissed. "We will not forget." Jae Park spoke for the first time. "We did not attack. We defended. We showed you a mirror. What you saw was not us, but yourselves." The room went silent. Holographic displays began to show the detailed technological scans, not as weapons, but as opportunities, ways to improve, ways to understand. The Dauntless was more than a ship now. It was a message, a way of thinking. "We propose joint scientific missions," Yun said. "Open research, shared discoveries." The alien delegates looked at each other. This was not how galactic politics usually worked. This was something new. Dr. Jung began explaining the adaptive AI systems, how they worked, how they learned, not as a threat, but as a possibility. "Imagine," he said, "a technology that grows, that learns, that becomes better with each interaction." The Vortex delegate's tentacles stopped moving. The Kroner representative leaned forward. Humanity was offering something more than technology. They were offering a new way of thinking. Captain Jay watched the room. He knew this was more than a diplomatic meeting. This was a moment of change. "We are not here to conquer," Yun repeated. "We are here to understand, to grow, together." Outside the massive council chamber, space remained dark and vast. But something was changing. Humanity had just rewritten the rules of galactic interaction, and nobody saw it coming. The Krelve home system burned, not from weapons, not from destruction, but from something far more powerful, understanding. The Dauntless approached slowly. Its systems hummed with a quiet intensity that was more terrifying than any weapon. Captain Jae Park stood on the bridge, watching the holographic displays that showed the entire system's technological infrastructure. Initiating data transmission, Lieutenant Kim announced. But this was no ordinary transmission. This was a complete exposure of the Krulve's entire technological and social infrastructure. Every secret, every hidden communication channel, every weakness in their defensive systems, not to destroy, but to reveal. Lieutenant Junho Park managed the tactical systems, but today, tactics meant something different. They were about information, about exposure. Their communication networks are going dark, Junho reported. His voice was calm, professional. The Krulve had built their civilization on control, on secrecy, on hiding their true nature from other species. The Dauntless was systematically dismantling that approach, not with weapons, but with pure, unfiltered information. Dr. Yun Min watched the data streams. To him, this was poetry. Numbers dancing, revealing truth. Their entire social structure is based on hidden information networks, Yun muttered. We're not destroying. We're transforming. The ship's AI worked at speeds no biological mind could comprehend, breaking down complex systems, understanding them, exposing them. Krulve warships tried to respond, but they were fighting a war they did not understand. How do you fight an enemy that doesn't want to destroy you? An enemy that wants you to see yourself clearly. Maintaining defensive protocols, Captain J ordered. No offensive actions. The bridge crew understood. This was more than a military operation. This was a philosophical statement. Humanity was showing the galaxy something important. Power was not about destruction. Power was about understanding. The Krulve home system's technological infrastructure began to change. Not crash, not burn, but transform. Hidden communication channels became transparent. Secret control mechanisms were exposed. The entire civilization was being forced to look at itself. Transmission complete, Lieutenant Kim said. Outside, space remained dark, silent, but something fundamental had changed. The Krulve had believed in absolute control, in hiding, in maintaining power through secrecy. The Dauntless had just shown them a different way. Junho's tactical display showed something remarkable. The Krulve ships were not attacking. They were confused, paralyzed. They don't know how to respond, he said softly. Captain J nodded. This was the point, not to destroy, but to create a moment of profound reflection. Dr. Yun continued analyzing the data streams. Each piece of information was a window, a chance to understand. Their technological systems are incredibly complex, Yun said, but also incredibly fragile, built on layers of hidden control. The Dauntless had become more than a ship. It was a mirror, reflecting back the true nature of a civilization that had built itself on darkness and control. Maintaining position, Jay ordered. The crew waited, calm, focused, understanding that this moment was bigger than a single encounter. This was about showing a different way of existing. In the vast darkness of space, the Dauntless hung like a beacon of something new, something unexpected. Not a weapon of war, but a tool of understanding. The galaxy would never be the same. 3 years after the Dauntless encounter, everything had changed. The Galactic Conference Center stood as a symbol of a new way of thinking. Species that once would have destroyed each other now sat together, talked together, learned together. Captain Joe Park walked slowly through the massive hall. He was not just a captain anymore. He was a symbol of something larger. Humanity changed everything, said a Vortex diplomat, its tentacles moving in a way that suggested respect. Not through war, but through understanding. The walls were covered with holographic displays, shared technologies, open research platforms, systems that no species could have imagined before the Dauntless showed a different way. Dr. Yun Min stood nearby, surrounded by scientists from a dozen different civilizations. Numbers and data danced around him like a living cloud of information. Adaptive intelligence is not just a technology, Yun was explaining. It's a way of thinking, of growing, of changing. The Krelve delegation looked different, no longer aggressive, no longer hidden. They had been forced to look at themselves, to understand their own systems of control. Ambassador Yun Choi approached Ja. She smiled, a smile that carried years of difficult conversations, of building something new. "We did not conquer," she said softly. "We opened a door." The conference hall was a testament to that door. Species that once saw each other as threats now saw each other as potential partners, as opportunities for growth. Shunho Park, now a lead diplomatic technology officer, was demonstrating a new communication system, one that allowed instant, transparent communication between different species. No hidden channels, no secrets. "Information wants to be free," he said, a phrase that had become a galactic motto. The Dauntless sat in a special museum now, not as a weapon, but as a learning center. Scientists from every known civilization studied its systems, learned from its approach. Captain J remembered the first encounter, the tension, the potential for total destruction. Now that moment seemed like a lifetime ago. "We are not special," J often told young cadets. "We are just willing to look differently, to understand that growth comes from openness, from learning." The galactic map had changed. No more rigid borders, no more hidden territories. Everything was becoming connected, transparent. A young Kroner scientist approached Yoon. "How did you create such adaptive systems?" she asked. Yoon smiled. "We did not create them," he said. "We simply removed the barriers that prevented them from existing." Outside the conference center, ships from 100 different civilizations moved together. Not in war formations, but in research groups, in exploration teams. The Krelve had been transformed, not destroyed, but shown a different way of existing. Ambassador Yun looked at Ja. "We did not win a war," she said. "We started a conversation, and that conversation was changing everything." The galaxy was learning to see itself differently. To understand that strength was not about control, but about connection, about growth. The Dauntless had been more than a ship. It had been a message. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had invited the galaxy to understand itself. And in that understanding, everything was possible.